Just see what I gotta deal with.
Wallet. Funny, I didn't have enough money to fill my car and my child's belly. Funny how life is. Keep writing, you will get to funny. Keep laughing. Laughter is the only thing that will make this poem funny. Like that time I wrote my first haiku along the wall of my college dorm. Funny, it was actually funny no one noticed.
On the morning of January 7th, 2024, a 49-year-old motivational speaker was found brutally murdered in her own bedroom at the 36700 block of McKinney Drive in Westland, Michigan. When the police arrived at the crime scene, what they found was gruesome. Kellyanne Mays was found covered in stab wounds and her own blood and was lifeless. No one could have predicted what had happened until they discovered the shocking truth that would change everything. The very person who murdered Kelly was her own husband. But the most chilling detail of it was that he did it all because she told him her secret, which took everything to a dark turn. This is the life and death of Kelly Mays.
Most honest and the most real I am with myself, and it's helped me go and reach into dark places that I wouldn't otherwise be able to talk about, experiences that I wouldn't be able to talk about, and to bring them out and share them with people. It's empowered me, it's empowered other survivors to share their experiences. My daughters have helped me heal because I look at them and I'm hopeful for a world without domestic violence.
Her story would take us to a quiet suburb in Westland, Michigan, known for its family-friendly neighborhoods, expansive parks, and a strong sense of community. Westland often gives the impression of safety and stability, a place where violence feels distant. But even in cities like Westland, crimes have a way of creeping in, and it is within this very city where Kelly Mays' life was brutally taken in her own home. Kelly Mays was born on November 21st, 1974, to Ralph Mays and Janice Watkins Mays in Detroit, Michigan. She was the youngest of the 3 children her parents had and was affectionately known as Twin B by her sister Stacy, with whom she shared an unbreakable bond. Growing up, the people around Kelly could see her innate compassion towards other people, her value for education, and her strength of character. And it is these characteristics that would reflect on her academic journey. Kelly was a graduate of Detroit Public Schools where she pursued her academic journey with relentless passion. Not long after, she went to Central Michigan University where she earned her bachelor's degree in psychology, and after graduating, she continued her education in the University of Phoenix, where she earned a master's degree in counseling. But her pursuit of excellence would not end there. She pursued yet another master's degree at CMU. Matter of fact, in 2021, she was just months away from completing her second master's at CMU. But little did she know, the attainment of yet another milestone in her life was something that would not happen. As Kelly stepped into her professional career, her innate compassion toward others, combined with her growing expertise, became the foundation of her life's work. She took on the role of Community and Staff Training Program Manager at Hagira Health Incorporated, where she also served as a mental health therapist. With a focus on supporting children and teens, Kelly's work was deeply personal. She had a rare ability to sit with someone in their darkest moment and gently guide them toward healing. Her office wasn't just a clinical space. It was a refuge for those who needed hope. But behind the glow of professional success and community impact, Kelly faced the same nightmare she built her career against.
So God removed that person out of your life, and they moved on. And as a result, you no longer have a stomach ache. They are someone else's stomach ache. So consider yourself, well, lucky. They've moved on. They're someone else's stomach ache. And God is taking care of you. So be blessed. You no longer have spoiled milk in your refrigerator.
At some point in 2008, Kelly started a relationship with a man who would steer her life in a terrible direction. The identity of this man remains unclear, but what is known is that Kelly loved him so much that she overlooked the early red flags that would later erupt into violence. What began as a seemingly loving relationship slowly turned into a cycle of control, manipulation, and emotional abuse. And in 2010, on her daughter's first birthday, this abuse would reach a terrifying climax. An argument between them escalated into brutal physical assault. Kelly was left severely injured and hospitalized. That moment became a defining fracture in her life, but it did not break her. Instead, it sparked a fire. After the incident, she left her then husband, and the trauma that she got from that relationship, she used it to advocate against domestic abuse. Whether through public speaking, poetry, or counseling, she made it her mission to ensure that others wouldn't suffer in silence the way she once had. Her work became a lifeline for many, and her story, a beacon of resilience and hope. With her determination and passion, Kelly became a powerful motivational speaker. She shared her story on news channels, podcasts, and at events focused on domestic abuse, mental health, and trauma recovery. Her lived experience gave her words weight. She didn't just speak about survival, she embodied it. Through her nonprofit, A Survivor Story, Kelly created safe spaces for others to heal, turning her pain into purpose and giving a voice to those still finding theirs. But just when it seemed that Kelly had finally found her footing, was healing from the past, the darkness of her journey would take yet another unexpected turn. Kelly met a man who appeared to offer the love and stability she had always dreamed of. It was a relationship that brought new hope and excitement into her life. It was with then 31-year-old Jimmy Lee Brown. At first, things seemed to be all perfect. Jimmy seemed like the kind of guy someone could settle down with. He was someone who had a good sense of humor that Kelly loved, and together they just clicked. But more to that, Jimmy also had a seemingly good background. He was a rapper who had gained some recognition for his appearance in the movie 8 Mile, along with the famous rapper Eminem. He was also known by a stage name, Super MC.
Okay, we not getting nowhere. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is I'm going to say, I want you to wear sunscreen. He's going to say, I'm not going to wear sunscreen. I'm going to just cry and say, but I love you. Can you please wear sunscreen? Because I think it's really, really important. And he's going to wear sunscreen. There you go.
Come on, man. We got some of the toughest old folks in our family. They don't wear no damn sunscreen. What are you talking? Man, no way. No way. My granddaddy was working in the heat. My grandma working in the heat. They ain't had no sunscreen. They was working. They was getting it in. Like, go in the kitchen and get the
Me and my husband are the same color. Look at us. We the same color.
We sure is.
We the same color. I'm dark, just like my husband. I got the melanin.
You have a dark mind.
I hate you. He gonna still wear the sunscreen. I don't know what he's talking about. He mad. I always win the arguments because, I'm the wife, I'm prettier, and I just show him my boobs and I win the argument.
But behind this facade of a good man, he was hiding a past that should have set Kelly's alarms off. In 1993, Jimmy was convicted of using a gun during 2 separate crimes, one involving an assault that could have caused serious injury, and another involving armed robbery. He served prison time for both cases before being released. These convictions weren't just a part of a troubled past, they were clear signs that Jimmy was a dangerous man, capable of serious violence. But through all this, Kelly would make the same terrible mistake that she had made once before. Kelly chose to overlook the red flags and continued her relationship with Jimmy, holding on to the hope that love could conquer even the darkest of pasts. In 2015, they got married, tying the knot and making what was meant to be a lifelong commitment. But unbeknownst to Kelly, she was stepping foot into another trap of domestic violence. And this time, she would not escape the violence she was yet to suffer. This, however, will not manifest for a while, because at first, things seemed stable. Jimmy was affectionate, supportive, and involved in her advocacy work. He even appeared at events with her, standing proudly by her side as she spoke about survival and empowerment. To outsiders, they looked like a couple building a future grounded in shared growth and healing. Jimmy even stepped into a fatherly role for Kelly's daughters, attending their birthday parties, proms, and school graduations. This could be seen on social media, where Kelly often posted fun banter and family outings with her kids, something that Kelly's daughters loved about Jimmy. For a time, it seemed like Kelly had finally found the stable home life she had always longed for. This seemingly picture-perfect family life that Kelly had always dreamed of would last for over 13 years of marriage, a stretch of time filled with genuine moments of joy and wholesome family life. But behind the smiles and public appearances, a far more troubling reality was unfolding. Throughout the years of being together, Kelly and Jimmy's relationship was far from perfect. Inside their home, tension was already growing. What once seemed like playful teasing between Kelly and Jimmy slowly shifted into sharp-tongued arguments and disagreements. It was something that Kelly's daughters would always witness, and as the years passed, it only got worse. It even got to the point where Kelly's daughters had begged the couple to end the relationship already. But through all this, Kelly would make an action that she urged other victims of domestic violence not to do. She stayed. However, as much as she fought to keep their marriage intact, she would eventually reach the end of her strength. And that breaking point was coming fast, closer than anyone realized. At the beginning of 2024, Kelly Ann Mays finally spoke the words she had carried in silence for far too long. She looked at Jimmy and revealed a secret that would change everything. She told him she was done and she's making the tough decision of leaving, just like what she tells her listeners in her speeches. At first, it seemed like Jimmy accepted it. They remained in contact, mostly for practical matters, and from the outside, there were no dramatic fights or public scenes. But beneath this calm facade, something sinister was brewing. Jimmy began to spiral. He grew distant, angry, and obsessive. To him, Kelly's decision wasn't closure, it was betrayal. And though he said he understood, deep down, he couldn't accept it. Kelly did not know this, but it wasn't long until his rage would reach a devastating climax, one that would prompt a shocking turn of events. On the morning of January 7th, 2024, one of Kelly's daughters, Celeste, came back home to their apartment at the 36700 block of McKinney Drive in Westland, Michigan. But she knew something was wrong when she stepped into the apartment. The silence was heavy and unnatural, the kind of quiet that makes your stomach drop before your mind can catch up. The lights were still on. Kelly's things were untouched, but she wasn't responding. As she walked around the apartment to look for her mother, the uneasy feeling only grew worse. And as she got to the bedroom of the apartment, she would discover a horrifying scene. Collapsed on the floor, Kelly lay lifeless inside the bedroom. Her body was surrounded by blood, the result of multiple deep lacerations to her neck and chest. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of a struggle outside that room, just the brutal final fact of violence that ended her life. It was a scene no daughter should ever have to witness, one that would be seared into Celeste's memory forever. In an illogical hope that everything was not too late yet, Celeste touched Kelly's foot to see if she was still alive, but all she felt was the cold feeling of a lifeless body. It was there when it sank in that her mother was gone. Panicked and trembling, Celeste grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Just moments later, the Westland Police Department arrived at the scene and confirmed what Celeste already feared. Kelly Mays was dead. She had been stabbed 17 times, with most of the wounds concentrated around her neck and chest. The sheer brutality of the attack left officers stunned. Who could have done something so vicious? As police began their initial investigation, they looked to the people closest to Kelly. And for Celeste, there was no doubt in her mind. There was only one person capable of this kind of rage. One person with the motive, the history, and the darkness inside him to carry out such a horrific act. Jimmy Lee Brown. But before they started a manhunt for the man who was nowhere to be found, something unexpected happened. Just hours later, Jimmy Lee Brown walked into the Westland Police Department and turned himself in. No chase, no denial, no attempt to hide. The man Celeste feared most simply walked through the doors and surrendered without saying a word. To investigators, it was both a break in the case and a chilling confirmation of their worst suspicions. But this was only the start of an excruciating battle for justice. On January 8th, 2024, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office filed a first-degree murder charge against Jimmy Lee Brown in connection with the death of Kelly Mays. News of Jimmy Lee Brown's surrender reached the media quickly. Within hours, the story had made its way through local news channels and online platforms. The case drew immediate and widespread attention, not only because of the nature of the crime, but also because the victim, Kelly Mays, was a well-known advocate for domestic abuse survivors.
Our other top story, we're learning more tonight about an important voice for domestic violence victims that has been silenced.
Yeah, Kelly Mays was a well-known survivor of domestic violence who found her voice helping others suffering through abusive relationships at home. The man accused of killing her is Jimmy Lee Brown. Now, he's a rap artist known as Super MC.
As the investigation unfolded and the community mourned, the legal proceedings advanced with intense public scrutiny. Months passed, and the weight of the evidence and the unbearable grief of Kelly's loved ones loomed large over the courtroom. Then, in a shocking turn that surprised and devastated many, Jimmy Lee Brown entered a guilty plea. In exchange for avoiding a lengthy trial, he admitted to second-degree murder. During a hearing in court, Jimmy expressed his remorse for the brutal killing of Kelly Ann Mays. But these words of regret, however, could not undo the horror of the crime nor bring comfort to those left behind.
I don't care what argument or disagreement occurred that day. There's no argument or disagreement you should state that justified these acts.
On March 10th, 2025, over a year after the tragic death of Kelly, justice would finally be served. Jimmy was sentenced to 18 to 40 years in prison, which means that he will have to do 18 years before he becomes eligible for parole. But with the gravity of what he did, it was a small price to the devastation that he caused. And no amount of serving time would bring back Kelly or undo the pain left in her absence.
I always received an ecstatic happy birthday twin A from her, and I would reply, happy birthday twin B.
Meanwhile, Kelly's family is still left grieving for her untimely passing. In the days that followed her murder, vigils were held in Kelly's honor. Friends, colleagues, and survivors she had supported gathered to remember her life and renew her mission.
She was a loving person that cared about everybody. I mean, Kelly, if she didn't even have to know you to come up to you and talk to you, she was a very open and honest person.
Other figure, anytime you did something, it was like, you can't do that, it was like, do better. She was always that motivator.
We want to promise, to Kelly's memory is to continue the mission and continue to help awareness for domestic violence and people to continue to know that there's help.
Candles were lit, photos displayed, and speeches given, not just about her tragic end, but about the legacy she left behind. But for Kelly's daughters, the impact of her death was most profoundly felt. Her youngest, Emily, now found herself shouldering a heavy responsibility. As the oldest of the two girls, Celeste was suddenly thrust into the role of caretaker. She struggled with the loss of her mother while simultaneously trying to protect her younger sister from the harsh reality of their new life. On January 20th, 2024, Kelly Ann Mays was finally laid to rest in Detroit, Michigan, where she was born and raised. As the last handful of dirt was gently placed over Kelly's resting place, her family whispered words of love and remembrance, knowing that, although she was gone, her spirit would continue to guide them in the days to come. The tragic loss of Kelly Ann Mays not only left a profound void in her family, but also highlighted the devastating, often hidden impact of domestic violence. Kelly, a woman known for her strength and her unwavering advocacy for others, became a stark reminder that even those who appear the strongest may be fighting their own private battles. Let us know what you think about this case in the comments below.